A leader has to take the risks. Thank you so much for hanging with me. Love to have you out at the beach today. So I hope you like
Where are
the
you based?
background. Hopefully you
Where?
join. I'm actually in Newport Beach right now.
Love it.
So yeah, how about you? Where are you based?
Miami.
Okay, all right. So you got some awesome beaches. Matter of fact, I like your beach better than my beach. So your beach is pretty dang good. Love Miami. What did you grow up out there?
No, northern Canadian boy. So I had no beaches around me.
Okay.
My white snow was indicative of like the white sand that I see now.
Okay. Yeah, really. And so how was that transition? I mean, how did you get over, and was that hard to do with a visa, or like what
Yes.
is that process? Was it
So
hard?
I was extremely blessed. I came down on a hockey scholarship, and then after being down here for a while, I got a job in the NHL. Obviously, then getting that job with the NHL as a performance director, I came in on a work visa, and then from the work visa, got put on exceptional talent visa, which then allowed me to apply for a green card, and then got my green card, I think, in 2018.
So tell me about your career, man. I mean, you're an NHL hockey player. So I mean, was that just something you did from day one, as from an early age? I mean, did you always want to be a hockey player?
Sorry, are we filming now? Like, are we going, or is it?
Yeah. We're just off the cuff, man. So
Cool.
we just start the conversation. Nothing fancy, nothing, man.
Cool.
We're off the cuff, man. We're doing it. Yeah.
I love it. Cool. So for me, I mean, growing up in Canada, it kind of comes with the territory that we say we're always born with skates on, right? And you learn to skate before you can walk. And um, that was my dream as a young kid, to be an NHL hockey player. And at 12, I was playing with 13, 14, 15-year-olds. And my dad said to me, son, talent will get you noticed, but consistency will get you paid. And it was that kind of motivation, and that one statement really shifted a mindset within me. And it was like, okay, how do I become the most consistent version of myself? What does this look like? How do I operate in a consistent day-to-day actionary state? And what do I have control over? And my habits, behaviors, and my lifestyle is something that I have direct control with. And so from that moment, I asked for a heart rate monitor at 13 years old for my birthday. And first, my parents were like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you sick? Is there something we need to know? And I was like, no, I just want to know how I'm operating and how I'm functioning. And so I'd wear the heart rate monitor for literally everything: to sleep, to train, to exercise, to run, I started looking at heart rate variability. I started changing some of my habits and behaviors off of my data. I started reading medical journals, and it really propelled my educational career. And so I came down to the States on a hockey scholarship, went and got my undergrad in exercise science and nutrition. From there, went and got my master's degree. From there, my postgraduate doctoral work in HRV, sleep and recovery science, which then kind of propelled my professional career as a performance director in both the NCAA and the National Hockey League. And really, it comes back to that pivotal moment when I was 12, and saying like, hey, what does this look like, and how can we become consistent in every way, shape, and form?
So when you're talking about consistency, you're talking about your, as far as your schooling, you were consistent. You were consistent with your practice. You were consistent with your health. You were consistent with your working out. You're talking about all areas of your life. We need to become more consistent. Is that kind of what you're saying here?
Yeah, consistency is what gets results. I mean, you ask anybody, and whether it's health, whether it's business, whether it's relationship, you can't take your wife on a date once a month and expect to have a really solid, deep, intimate relationship. You can't take your kids out on a vacation once a year and think that they're going to get cultured and really enjoy and create these deep memories in a deep way. You can't go to the gym once every 3 weeks and expect to see some changes. You can't eat a high quality meal once a week and expect to look the way that you want to. You can't have an executive meeting once a quarter and expect your business to be thriving. Like, consistency is what yields results. Consistency is what creates change. And I think so many times we overcomplicate the systems and strategies of what we're trying to do because everybody's doing something different. Everybody's doing something a little bit more unique. And you get this like fear of missing out syndrome, or you start comparing yourself to somebody else and being like, oh, I need to do that. But yet it disrupts the consistency of what you are doing. So it actually takes you further away from where you're going, rather than just being consistent and showing up and putting in the work and effort that you know matters to you for where you're trying to go, what your goals are, what your values are, what you're aligned with. And it will take you much further down the road as long as we have patience, knowing that this is truly what we want to do.
So was there a time in your life that you really sat down and figured out what it is that you wanted in your life, and what is it that you want in your life?
Yeah, I think it wasn't one time. If it's it seems like my life has zigged and zagged across a multitude of ways. And I really talk about this now in a few of my books and a lot of the different keynotes and talks that I do, that it's more so being willing and open to the calling of what God's calling me to do. And the moment that you are being willing to steward yourself and be more of like a vessel to carry out a bigger purpose than your own, you're more able to be flexible. You're more able to move and to jive left or right. And when we're disconnected from that calling, it's oftentimes when we feel like we have to go after somebody else's calling, somebody else's dream, something else somebody else is doing, when we think that's what we want. But in actuality, we just want the money that it comes with, or the fame that it comes with, or the influence that it comes with, or the worldly possession that it comes with. And when we really get down to it and we really kind of get true to what we're looking for, that's what will give us the sustaining power to be consistent for as long as it's going to take to accomplish whatever said goal is.
So what's your goal, man?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's to redeem the health of the world, to truly change the way that people see, think, and operate in their own health, so that they can feel different, look different, and think different.
And so we all want to look different. We all want those six-pack abs. I mean, I've always wanted the six-pack abs. How do you get six-pack abs, man? I mean, this is the $100 million question. Tell us how to do it.
I mean, there's been a lot of books written about it. It's just a simple answer. It's like consistency. It's how bad you want it. And I know people say they want it, but are you willing to do the work that's going to take to get to where you want to go? And I give this answer all the time is, if you looked at me when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, I looked the same as I do now. Six-pack abs. I'm a little bit more filled out. I'm 30, 40 pounds heavier than I was then in terms of muscle mass, but I theoretically look the same. And I'm going to tell you, for about 15 years of that time, I was miserable. I hated myself. I hated my body. I hated my circumstances. I hated where I was. And true health is not all about what's on the outside. It's about how we're operating through the inside. It's as a 14-year-old kid, I had a lot of body image issues, and I was a chubby kid, got made fun of a lot, and went down this road of anorexia, went down this road of being obsessed about what I was eating, how much I was eating, what I looked like, what my body composition was, did I look good in the mirror? And so much so that it took me so far the other way. And as I continued to kind of play this role and play this game in my mind, I got exactly what I was looking for, but I was miserable in doing it. I was miserable in living. I had no energy. It was all consuming. And it's really not what it's all cracked up to be, versus now being on purpose, doing exactly what it is that I want to do, serving hundreds of thousands of people with a team that is changing the game, all while living a lifestyle that is fun, that's challenging, that's engaging, that I can be consistent on, that I still look great, still have the six-pack abs everybody's looking for, but yet I don't think about it any single day because I know I'm on purpose. That's the difference of a top-down approach versus a bottom-up approach. I say the spirit's first, the mind second, the heart is third, and the body is fourth. If we connect to the spirit, we connect to our identity and our beliefs, what it is that we need to do and why we're doing it, what our calling is, it renews our mind, it renews our thoughts and beliefs, it renews what we think and why we think about this for ourselves, which ultimately purifies our heart, helps our emotions, takes away the anxiety, takes away the depression, takes away the fear of stepping into these different things, which thus is then realized in our flesh, realized in our body, in the way that we go. The world tells us to take a bottom-up approach. No, you have to have six-pack abs to be a good person. You have to have six-pack abs to be successful. You have to have six-pack abs to get the girl of your dreams. Well, man, if I need that, then now I'm in a state of fear. I'm in a state of fear that I'm not there, that I'm not good enough, that I'm never going to get there, that I'm anxious, that I have to miss a workout, that I'm depressed, that I just haven't seen the progress that I've wanted, which thus clouds our mind, which starts doubting myself, not wanting to take action, being demotivated, thinking that I'm not good enough, thinking I'm not worthy, which separates us from our calling, separates us from where we're supposed to go and what we're supposed to do and the influence that we're supposed to have in this world, which it just takes it flipping it on its head and starting to operate in that spirit first, mind, heart, and body.
Well, I agree with you. Everything you're talking about, you're right on. And I think that if we really look at the body image deal that everybody's going through right now, everybody wants to have this, because the Instagram, I mean, maybe you can shed some light on it, but the Instagram story is not all it's cracked up to be, especially with computers and especially with the way that images can be portrayed and could be changed and could be filtered and all these. I mean, I remember a guy told me, a buddy of mine, he had six-pack abs, and he said, you don't realize that the stuff that guy's got to do before he goes on that cover of that magazine, the things that these people do to their bodies to get their bodies to look like completely not healthy. Can you maybe touch on that a little bit? Because I'm sure you know a little bit about what I'm talking about.
Totally. There's a couple things. Number one is the way that they look on magazine. They might look like that for a day. They look like that for a shoot. It was in preparation. It's just like the people you see in bodybuilding. They're prepping for that over the course of 6 to 10 weeks. And the last 6 to 10 weeks become really hard. If you've ever been around a bodybuilder and you ask anybody who's their spouse or their friend or they're working for, whatever, during that kind of cutting phase, that last 6 to 8 weeks, it's not fun to be around them. They're irritable. They don't sleep. It's extremely hard on their body, and it actually disrupts a lot of the equilibrium and the metabolism and everything going forward. And if you look at them outside of competition time, they actually look like a completely different person. And I saw a study that actually showed if you compete in bodybuilding over the course for more than 3 times in a year, going through that cycle, it does some very serious damage to not only your metabolism, but also your organs, your blood vessels, and everything else. And so you think about the age and the health span of someone. The health span drastically drops when you start living that way, when you start operating in that way, versus truly being holistically healthy, being somebody who is living this holistic health that's vibrant, that at 70, 80, 90 years old has massive energy, has a body that works, that's fluid, that is pain-free, that is able to do everything that you want. A lot of the clients that we see, there's people who, a lot of my colleagues in the anti-aging space and holistic health space talk about helping people live until they're 130, 140 years old. And that's yet to be seen to be able to do consistently. But I also challenge them on that fact. And I don't want to increase somebody's lifespan. I want to increase somebody's health span, because what's awesome if you're like, how great is it if you're living until 105, but at 75, you were bedridden for the last 30 years, you couldn't leave your condo. I see it every single time. So in my home that we're in, I've got a balcony out my back door that overlooks the water, and there's a couple that I literally look at every single day from my office. And I would say they're probably 70, 75 years old. And every morning the husband comes out, he sweeps off the pool deck, he pulls the chair over, sits it down next to the pool. And I see this lady, like I said, she's got to be 75 years old. She's overweight. She's got a walker. She's walking out there. She sits down at that pool and she sits and sits and sits. And at noon, she'll try to get up out of her chair. She won't be able to do it. She'll sit back down. Her husband will come over. She'll pick him up, or he'll pick her up, give her his arm, walk her back into the house, go and get lunch, whatever, come on back later in the afternoon. And that's literally her life. That to me is not living. That to me is not health span. What I would love to do is, let's take you to maybe live to 80 or live to 90, but right up until the day you died, you were out running, you were working out, you were out fishing with the grandkids, you were going and watching them play whatever sport they were doing, you were traveling to different countries or different states, seeing different things, going on family vacations. Like, that is living. That is what life is all about. That is true health. That is holistic health. And that is what we have to realize at a young age. The decisions that we start making, the habits, the behaviors, the lifestyles that we are being consistent in, is either earning our health span or earning our disease. We have to learn that we either earn our health or earn our disease. And when we start to figure that out and put the two combinations together and take ourselves out of this space of fake health, which is disease-free but symptom-full, symptoms that we've ultimately just accepted as normal because, oh, that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur. That's what it takes to be a husband. That's what it takes to be a mom. That's what it takes to be a 50-year-old. When we eliminate those lies from our life, we realize that our habits and behaviors are causing us to shorten our health span and will throw us into that disease bucket much earlier than any of us are looking for.
Why is alcohol so bad for you? I mean, so many people just drink and drink. Everybody feels like they got to have a drink before they go to bed. Everybody, it feels like they got to have a drink to wind down. They have to have a drink to have fun. They have to have a drink. Everybody's got to have a drink. How, maybe from a scientific standpoint, how bad is alcohol when you're talking about longevity and living because this is my thought. This is why I'm asking this, is because I think in my mind, and I'm not against drinking. I drink wine. I'll have a cocktail every now and then. But the thing I think about is the way it makes me feel, the way my body feels afterward. It doesn't feel good. It feels very dehydrated. Doesn't feel like a normal day for me. I don't like it. That after feeling. But I also think in my mind, I think about those people in the future that are just so sick and they're so, overweight. They're always drinking beer all the time and they're so overweight and they look so sickly to me and they look so unhealthy. And to me, it's sad. It's sad because not only are they killing themselves, but now the people around them, like I would never want my kids to have to see me like that. I'm, one of the reasons why I've always tried to maintain a healthy lifestyle is because I wanted to be that dad. I have two kids. I wanted to be that dad that was playing with my kids, was, kicking the soccer ball and out in the backyard and running around and going to all their games and doing all kinds of fun stuff. I'd take them out of school and we would go to the carnival and I would get in the ride with them. And I always thought, man, I never wanted to be that dad that couldn't fit into the ride. Right. And so I purposely thought about that kind of stuff because I'm with you, man. I want to live, I want to like do things and enjoy life versus just sitting there. So maybe just, can you touch on the effects of alcohol?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And there's, I think, I'm going to address it from a couple of different ways. So one, society has made this so normal in our life. The world has said, like, you have to drink in order to have fun. You have to drink in order to relax. You have to drink in order to be at a social setting, at a sports game, at a party, whatever it might be. And again, I'm not a prude when it comes to drinking. I partake as in an inconsistent way, I would say. That's the one thing that I'm not consistent at. Whether it be a glass of wine during date night once a week, or whether it be once a month going and enjoying a nice afternoon on a boat and having a couple beverages. But when you can dissociate from that, people start drinking because they're not secure with themselves. They have to drink in order to change their reality, alter their reality so that they can feel better in whatever scenario they are, which comes back to the mind, their thoughts, their beliefs, their emotions that they haven't been able to take captive yet. They haven't been able to take ownership of them. And so they have to mask it somehow. Second is to calm down at night. You mentioned this one as well. They haven't figured out that meditation, breath work, journaling, reflection time, reading can all alleviate a lot of this anxiety that they're feeling, and it doesn't need a substance to do that. Now, let's go into like the impact side of it. Alcohol at its core is basically poison within the body. If you talk about something, a metric that people may or may not be familiar of is heart rate variability. So heart rate variability, otherwise known as HRV, is measuring the time increments or the time intervals in between your successive heartbeats. And if I was to say your resting heart rate is 60 beats per minute, we would say 60 beats divided by 60 seconds is 1 beat per second. That's how many times it's beating. Well, that's not how our body functions. And what actually happens is our heart only beats when it has to. So the more relaxed we are, the less quote unquote stressed we are, or stressors that our body's having to adapt to, it's more loosey-goosey. So it might be 798 milliseconds, 895 milliseconds, 942. So a lot of variance, a high level of variance, meaning your HRV will be high. Conversely, when stress starts to take on, such as low sleep time, high amounts of exercise, you're in a fight with your spouse, you've got a lot of business stress going on, you've got anxiety, our heart goes, oh my gosh, Daniel's about to die. We have to protect him. We need to start regulating his heartbeat. And so it might be 805 milliseconds, 810 milliseconds, 895 milliseconds, 887 milliseconds, and regulate it out more, plummeting the variability of those successive beats. And if you measure it after a night of drinking, after something as simple as one beverage, your HRV will drop about 25% with it now. And that's for me. And that's having like one drink occasionally once every couple weeks. You have somebody who goes and gets blackout drunk, they'll come and they could see a 60 to 70% decrease in HRV. And the definition of HRV is how your body's handling stress and strain that's being placed on it. So you can now start to imagine the impact internally of what's going on with your body, what it's having to fight through, what it's having to deal with, what it's having to overcome in order just to get yourself back to a state of normalcy when you're drinking, either regularly or irregularly. But any type of alcohol consumption is unbelievably hard on your system and now the data can show it. So if you've got a wearable device, if you've got an Oura, a Fitbit, a Polar, a Whoop, a Garmin, an Apple, look for the measure HRV, do a little experiment. Don't drink for 3 or 4 days. Look at what happens to your HRV. Have a few drinks, check it the next day, and you're going to be like, by golly, that guy was onto something.
How do we get better sleep? Because I know you talk a lot about sleeping and the importance of sleeping. And it's, again, one of those pieces of science now that's becoming more and more available to us. And we're starting to recognize that, 4 hours a night is just not enough. So tell us why, and maybe some ideas on how to sleep better at night.
Yeah, this is so great. So I'll actually give the audience and the listeners two different places to go. So they can go to ownithrv.com. And everything I was just talking about with heart rate variability, it'll actually explain it to you really, really well and give you a little ebook that'll actually walk you through in a couple successive videos that'll help you understand HRV and your body in a whole new different way. It'll open up a different dimension for you. And then second, if you go to ownitsleep.com, I've basically put together 25 years of research, extrapolated every major sleep study out there, and brought it down to about 15 of the best practices that can help you get a great night's sleep every single night. Esquire actually did a feature on that ebook that I did. It was pretty cool. And so if you go to that, you can get that PDF for you as well. It'll just be sent to you. But the framework that I utilize when it comes to sleeping, very, very simple. It's a 3-2-1 rule. So 3 hours before bed, no more food, no more major meals, cut it out. Why? We've got 400 times more melatonin that's produced in our gut than is actually produced by the pineal gland in our brain. So if we're taking in food, not only is it a stressor, thus increasing cortisol, but it's also pulling blood from the rest of our body that should be in our brain, washing and cleansing our brain at night, to actually flowing it down to our gut to help digest the food. And so it's not going to get as much melatonin from the gut out into the body. It's not going to allow our body to get into as deep as restful states. It's going to increase cortisol. It's going to decrease our ability to get into the restorative states of sleep, and thus act as a major disruptor. So 3 hours before bed, no more major meals, cut that out. So if we have a consistent sleep time of 10 to 10:30, no more meals after 7 to 7:30. Make sure you're done. Make sure your dinner is a little earlier, no more snacks, cut that out. If they're going to be a liquid, cool. But cut that out. 2 hours before bed, no more work. So no more heavy decision-making. So if you're that person that's sending emails right up until the moment you're going to bed, if you're texting about what the schedule looks like the next day, if you're sitting with your spouse trying to figure out who's cooking dinner the following night and starting to figure out your calendar and your scheduling, none of these things are going to be preparing you to get a great night's sleep. Why? Again, it's going to cause an increase in cortisol, a decrease in melatonin, and thus increase the thought process and the thinking process and the anxiety mechanisms within us that won't allow us to settle down and truly prepare to get into those deeper states of sleep. And then number 3 is 1 hour before bed, no more blue light. So for every hour of blue light exposure after sunset, it decreases melatonin release by 30 minutes. So if we're watching 2 hours of TV after sunset, where melatonin release is going to be about 1 to 2 hours after or delayed from when it should be. So if we're going to bed at 10 o'clock, we're actually not getting our peak melatonin release till about midnight, which should have happened 2 hours prior. So it's going to, again, keep us out of these deep quality states of sleep. And the crazy thing about it is that we've got this glymphatic system, and our glymphatic system, think about it as a car wash for our brain. And so the glymphatic system is 10 times more active at night than it is during the day, which is why when we don't get great night's sleeps, we have brain fog the next day. We can't put two thoughts together. We have an increase in dementia and Alzheimer's long-term. We have maybe a few more headaches, all because we haven't been able to eliminate the toxicity that is existing within our brain. And so that 3-2-1 rule is something just so simple, so easy to implement, even before we get into the deeper things, like what does our sleep environment look like? What temperature should we sleep at? But if we just hit the 3-2-1 rule, you will notice an amazing shift and an amazing change in how you sleep, the quality of your sleep, and the state of restfulness in which you awake in the morning, to ultimately impact you in a big, big way.
I know people are watching and listening right now, and they're like, there ain't no way I can do that. I mean, really, I mean, a lot of people, because even I'm thinking in my mind, because I'm in a, and it maybe it's just, we just got to figure out maybe different times or figure out different schedules, because in my type of business, a lot of times we're meeting with clients at 8 o'clock at night. Sometimes we're meeting at 6 o'clock at night, so you're not out until a certain amount, a certain time. So as long as it's 3 hours, 2 hours, and 1 hour before we go to bed, maybe we just got to adjust some of this stuff, because I think that especially entrepreneurs, because you're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, and us, man, because you're an entrepreneur. I mean, sometimes our brains just don't shut off, man. I mean, sometimes and now with e-reading and stuff like that. I mean, if you don't have an actual book to read, of course you're going to read on your iPad, or you're going to read on your laptop, or you're going to read on your phone or something like that. And so is there other, like, I mean, how do you address those people that say, that is like way too hard to be able to do something like that? Are there any other recommendations for us that you could think of?
So there's a ton, but I'm also
Okay.
going to challenge that way of thinking, because it goes back to what you said is, oh, I want the 6-pack abs. And then somebody tells you what you have to do. And it's like, oh, there's no way I'm doing that. You obviously don't want it that bad. Somebody says, hey, I want to get better sleep. I know the superpower that exists here. I know how I can be more mentally clear. I know how I can get more work done. I know I can get this stuff done. And then you say, hey, it's a 3-2-1 rule. It's pretty freaking easy. And someone's like, oh, there's no way I can do that. Hey, well, I guess you don't want it that bad, because all it really takes is putting a life by design. And if we look at our lives, and I say this often, show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities. If you looked at my calendar, and I'll be completely transparent, I've got 2 businesses that are multi 8-figure, and serving people all over the world, traveling probably 4 or 5 times a month. There's not one day that I don't miss my 3-2-1 rule, whether I'm going from New York to LA and I have to change time zones and I have a travel framework. It's all about being able to be consistent in what you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to bed at 6 o'clock when I go out to LA, but what it does mean is that I'm making a couple shifts in how I show up in my life and how the decisions I make and what I'm doing, because I'm choosing to be alert, awake, impactful, and have the life that I'm ultimately searching for on a day-to-day basis. But it only comes by being able to set boundaries. You talk about, I hear it all the time. There was an entrepreneur that runs a $500 million company. And he's like, I can't do this. I have meetings with some people at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, what are you doing having meetings at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night that you can't do during the day? And he gave me 5, 6, 7 different excuses. And after we worked through each one of the excuses, it was, well, I guess I just really haven't tried, or I haven't put things into place. I just haven't set boundaries. This is just kind of how things have ultimately ended up happening. And when we were able to now restructure things for him and set boundaries based off of priorities, based off of values, all of a sudden behaviors changed. All of a sudden he's sleeping every night at 11 o'clock. All of a sudden he's waking up and getting more done throughout the day. All of a sudden he's being more efficient. All of a sudden things that were bothering him before wouldn't bother him. All of a sudden his stress level that he didn't even know he was feeling is now going, man, I can't believe I operated a business like that for 7 years. I can't believe that, imagine what it did to my health long-term. And the guy's operating at a higher frequency with greater impact, at a greater level of consistency than he ever thought possible, simply because he was able to adopt behaviors that he would have never thought about before, because he had his own mind blocks or his own boundary barriers to create this change in the first place.
And so when you look at people, because there's a lot of depression right now, in there's more drugs on the market than ever. What are your thoughts? I'm just curious. Why do you think so many people are depressed in our? Because to me, I think the world has never been better. I mean, I know there's challenges politically, and there's challenges, with different things in the world. But I'm saying from just a standpoint of, I mean, we got lot of freedom. I mean, especially you're in Florida, man, you got a lot of freedom, right? We got freedom, we got choices, we got options. We can, we can be who we want to be. We can do what almost just about what we want to do. I mean, especially us in America. I mean, we're pretty darn free to do the things that we want to do. Why are more people on drugs more than ever? Why are more people more depressed now than ever? Why? It doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, it's an extremely loaded question. There's a whole bunch that plays into it, but when it comes to the drugs and the pharmaceutical industry and the doctors, and I've seen that space just explode over the last little bit. A lot of it comes down to money, and us as consumers, we're looking for a fast fix, something quick. Oh, you mean I don't have to actually work to change a behavior? You mean I don't have to actually do the deep work? I don't have to figure out why this feeling of inadequacy and this feeling of insecurity exists, and I can just take a pill and I can just kind of help me out of this. That is what I think sits at the base of a lot of this. Is we're looking for a fast change. We're looking for a fast fix. We don't want to do the deep-seated work that exists. We don't want to change habits and behaviors. I mean, even unsolicited, I saw it from you 5 minutes ago where you're like, there's no way I'm changing my sleep that way. And the fact that and when we come back to our sleep has such an impact on mental health. Our sleep has such an impact on how aware we are, how alert we are, how preserved we are. There's actually a mechanism in our brain that has certain receptors that don't allow it to absorb serotonin if we are under sleep deprivation. So if we're actually not absorbing serotonin from good things that are happening in our life, to the sunshine that exists, to all of these other things, it's going to cause a lot of issues for us because we're not getting the serotonin and dopamine jolts that we need. And the only place we get them is from our phone or from these other forms of mechanism, be it drugs, be it alcohol, be it porn, be it like all of these other things that exist in our world, which ultimately cause all of these other addictions that are happening, because that's the only time that we feel quote unquote normal. And so you show me a kid at 8, 9, 10, 11 years old that is addicted to video games, and he's playing those games because that's what makes him feel normal. Show me that kid. I'll show you somebody who in the future will be a future addict. And these are the things that we are ultimately exposing ourselves to in this world, that we have to start creating change. That's why I come back to habits and behaviors. The sun will do wonders. Getting your feet on the bare ground will do wonders. Getting activity during the day will do wonders. Going through an intentional breathing exercise 3 to 5 minutes a day will do wonders. Getting a good night's sleep at night will do wonders. Eating good food will do wonders. You start operating that way, you start getting really grounded in your actions and behaviors and consistent with these things that mean something to you, not just random things that are pulled out of that people say, quote unquote, are good for you, but rather things that, no, this means something to me because it's tied to my values. It's tied to my beliefs. It's tied to my priorities. It's aligned with where I'm trying to go and the mission that I'm on. That is going to give you the staying power to be consistent, to realize the results that you're ultimately looking for.
So a couple of last thoughts here as we kind of wind down. I mean, this is powerful stuff. I mean, there's no question about it. The reason why you've had the success that you have had is because you are one of the most disciplined dudes I've ever met in my life. One of the most consistent guys that I've ever met in my life. And I don't think what you're saying is that difficult to do. I mean, I think that the reason why most people fail in life and business is just simply because of their consistent habits. I mean, consistency is, in my opinion, it's everything. I mean, consistent accountability, consistent actions. I mean, this is all what played a role in helping me build my company. So there's no question you're right on. And I think that, as we kind of close out, I want you to, I mean, for those entrepreneurs that want to take their lives to that next level, I mean, because I know you're pretty faith-based, man, and you have yourself deeply rooted into faith. And how has that played a role in your life, and how important is that to you?
To me, it's everything. I've seen life when I've been very disconnected, and I've seen life when I've been extremely connected. And there's, I said this the other day. I said, I don't know how I lived with the amount of anxiety, the amount of frustration, the amount of impatience I did when I was so disconnected from God and so disconnected from my calling. And I wasn't able to hear his voice. I wasn't able to hear his guidance. I wasn't able to see the little breadcrumbs that he put in front of me, leading me on my path along the way, and feeling like I had to do it all myself, feeling like it was all on my shoulders, feeling like I had to make every decision and I had to put myself in this way. How was I going to pay my bills? How was I going to fulfill my calling? How was I going to get from A to B? I had to figure it out, when in actuality, it never had anything to do with me. It never had anything to do with what I wanted to do. It had everything to do with getting reacclimated and adjusting my dial to connect me back into what God was asking me to do, getting cued back into where he was calling me, where he was guiding me, taking the directions. And if I made a wrong choice, that's okay, because I'm going to be redirected anyways. He's always taking whatever outcomes and turning them out for the best. Everything will always be turned out and be made for good, even though you may think you're in a valley. You have to go through the valley in order to realize the miracle. If we never went into any valleys, what good would a miracle do? Because you don't need one. And so I think that was coming back to your question, is faith. And let me be very honest here and very, very direct. It's not religion we're after. Religion is like when you're driving a car. And I don't know how many of your listeners have wrecked a car in their lifetime, but when you're driving a car as a young boy, maybe or young woman, and you had your first vehicle and you got in an accident, and you're like, oh man, I've got to call my dad. He's going to be so angry. He's going to be so mad. He's going to yell at me. He's going to just get all upset. That's religion. Relationship with God, relationship is like when you do the same thing and you wreck your car and you're like, man, I got to call my dad. My dad will know what to do. My dad's going to help me. My dad's going to comfort me. My dad's going to put me on the next path. He's going to know exactly what to do, and he's going to help me fix this. That's relationship. And that's what I've been able to find. And that's what has just been able to be so deeply rooted, is this deep faith in knowing that the direction that you're on, and listening to dad, listening to your father, who created you for greatness, created you to be world-class at something, is just wanting you to pursue him and pursue what that purpose and mission is, so that you can ultimately realize that and unfold it to the world, because your calling and your mission is somebody else's miracle.
Powerful, dude. Powerful. Really powerful. Thank you so much, Justin. I really appreciate all of your time and all of your wisdom and knowledge. No question why you have built what you've been able to build, and you're really making an incredible impact on the world. You're making this world a better place because you are here, and so I applaud you, and I thank you so much for what you're giving. There's people right now, man. They're like, how do I get a hold of this guy? I want to talk to him. I want to know more about his businesses. I want to buy something from him. I want to get advice, whatever it is. How do we get a hold of you? How do we connect with you?
Yeah, awesome. So I'm super active on social media. So at Justin Roth on Instagram, ROETH. And then all the information on our website, you can get a hold of me directly. You can get a hold of our team. It's ownitcoaching.com.
Awesome. Hey, thank you again. And for all of the audience and listeners, please do me a favor, reach out to Justin, say what's up, tell him, hello, tell him thank you, tell him that you heard him, saw him on Wealth on the Beach podcast, and just give him a little pat on the back, give him a little shout out, share his stuff, comment, like his stuff, let him know he's doing a great job, because he really is doing a great job. And this to me was one of the most authentic, real, direct podcasts that we've done. And I really, I'm just excited to meet you, to know you. Hopefully we continue a nice relationship. And of course, I wish you all the best. With that said, everybody, make sure you continue to dream bigger than ever. Make sure you get after it, but most importantly, do it now. God bless you. We'll see you at the top.